Hello everybody and welcome to Arganian's Puzzle Box. In today's update for the CloudForge, I want to present with you two new features. One of them is the ability for the clouds to effectively change their shape in real time. As you can see behind me, some of these clouds are right now changing their shape as the the viewport is running. There's no play button or anything that needs to be pressed. The clouds will just animate based on noises. This is due to Damian Ramirez, a contributor to my Discord server, who has found a very neat, very cool solution, and I will link his ArtStation in the description below, in the video description, because he's a very, very talented creator and he's always helped me out. So I really appreciate, shout out to Damian for this. And also the second feature being a blueprint that allows us to control all the settings of the clouds as a general sort of change, instead of just doing it cloud by cloud. So this is going to be a very useful quality of life improvement, again created by Damian, so really appreciate your hard work, Damian, on this. And yeah, I really wanted to implement them in, update the CloudForge, and everybody can now pretty much use them. So this scene behind me, as I've said to you, if you have a look at it, is right now running in real time, and the clouds are changing their shape, and it gives them this appearance like they're moving through the world. And you can actually combine this with the cloud spawner. So if you're using the blueprint that allows for clouds to spawn in the world and then die out, they will also get this animation based on noise. This particular animation of the cloud shape is customizable for the blueprint. You can change settings on it, how quickly it sort of like changes the shape, what the noise looks like, how sort of thin, thick it is. You can literally have like a Microsoft simulator type of effect where you're flying through clouds, through tunnels within the clouds, and then just keep on going. It's honestly, it's quite an experience, and I'm really happy to be able to show you this update. So let's have a look at how to use it and what it provides, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's begin. I've got myself the landscape open. This is an Arctic, Icelandic or Arctic environment, as you can see. And what we're doing right now, we're running the DNAmic Sky inside of this. And these are the sort of the clouds we're getting on full cinematic quality. You can see in here, I've got them enabled as full cinematic. They're volumetric clouds, and they look quite nice. There's obviously still some issues, like points where they're being cut off or things like that because of how the noise is being created. And, you can see in here as well, there's tweaks that you can do to sort of mask these out and feather them more if you'd like. But there's obviously quite some... there's a lot of technical stuff in here to be done, but DNAmic Sky is a system that's, really good to just drop in and start using straight away. Now, for my scene, I have a few issues with this. So, for example, if I go above the clouds, my water shader is effectively overwriting the actual clouds. So wherever there's water, I can see through the clouds, which is quite a big problem. And this is not something, this is something that I can fix through the water shader, but this water shader is really nice and I don't want to change it the way it functions. But obviously these clouds are getting some issues. Now with the CloudForge, you don't actually get any of that. So that's one major advantage of using it. So what we're going to do right now, so we're actually going to go in here into the clouds from the DNAmic Sky, because it's already loaded up a light system, a light source. So I'm just going to turn the cloud coverage to 0. So we have no more clouds from the DNAmic Sky. We just have the simple basic atmosphere and directional light that usually comes with Unreal Engine. But this time around, we're just using it directly from DNAmic Sky, so I don't have to delete it from the scene. But now we can start going in here and adding our clouds from the CloudForge. Now, obviously, this is a new feature that's been added to this, which I'm really proud of. Is the fact that the clouds can now move. So if I go in here in the blueprint, and I can use the CloudForge spawner from here, if I would like to use this particular blueprint, this one, to allow for clouds to traverse and spawn in and out. But I can also just use a single cloud, to drop it somewhere. So I'm going to take the single cloud, I'm going to bring it into the scene, just wait for it to load a little bit, and then you can just sort of drag and drop it somewhere in the scene. Actually, I could just drop it. Right, so we've got the cloud. I've just put it around this you know, ice block here. And by the way, just so you know, you can actually get this block of ice, which you see it's got a bit of a visual glitch there for with shadows. But anyway, you can actually get this material for free from my Gumroad or ArtStation page. So I'll put the link in the description anyway if you want to download this particular ice shader. And I have a tutorial that shows you exactly how to create it as well. Right, so we've got the cloud, but we can't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first load the VDB. I'm going to load this AP Cyrus cloud, and we can still not see it. So I'm going to just turn in the indirect lighting and then infinite trace, and now we can see the cloud. But it's a very tiny cloud. So we can go over here into scale and put this up to like 100. Now already you are seeing the new system in play. So you're noticing that the cloud is disappearing and appearing as it's sort of like, it doesn't move the position of where the cloud is, but the cloud formation itself is moving. So if I go in here and then I look at the small, at the large noise and set that to 0, this is what the cloud looked like normally. Like this is the normal look of the cloud. But if I turn this on, so put 0.001, you'll see that it's moving. Now, if I put this to 0.01, then it will disperse it even further. So what you really want to do in here is kind of use this figure. So this noise that travels through the cloud will allow it to change its shape. And this particular cloud isn't exactly the best case scenario in the sense of this is more of a cloud that should probably be left intact. So if we load something more, you know, different, like something like this will give us a bit of a different result. So you can see that we now have like holes created through the clouds that you can sort of like fly through. And you can see there's also some feathering going on here around the edges. So if I fly right here, you can see that feathering, and that can be removed by putting the small noise scale to 0. And now you can see it's quite smooth, like there's no more feathering. But I would actually recommend that you use this feathering. So 0.1 gives you the most amount of feathering, but 0.01 gives you just a little tiny bit. So I would just have a look at this, obviously play around with the setting. 0.1 seems to be the best case scenario for me. There's other tweaks that we can do to the lighting system to make our clouds look even better if we'd like to. But there's also like cloud self shadow, so we can increase that. As you can see, obviously these are covered in the previous versions, but the idea here is that we now have a cloud that changes its shape, and you can decide the speed of that, like cloud flow direction. You could put that to 0.001, and now the change will be much slower. Like we're talking about very slow right now. It's not moving at all, but it's very slow. So I've just increased it a little bit so you can see it still. And what I like about these clouds is, as I said to you, is the fact that you can pretty much put them within the world, something like that, for example, and they don't really have the visual glitch of something like the Ultra Dynamic Sky, which sometimes can interfere. Now, these clouds are specifically done for photorealistic purposes, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend them for games in large numbers. But if we would like to play around some more, like, for example, obviously watch my previous tutorials on things, but there are other tweaks that we could do, like we could decrease the density if we'd like to, you know, of this cloud, although generally clouds like this particular formation works quite well if we keep a high density. There's like loads of clouds to choose from the CloudForge Complete. Now look at that, that is a massive cloud right there. And we could probably, I don't know, drop it something like that, maybe take its self shadow to maybe like a 1. I mean, look at how massive the cloud formation there is that you can now play with, and as I said to you, fly through, and you literally see tunnels in here. And at this point I would probably like make it completely smooth instead of having any sort of small noise, but you could like have a fly through in here just like in Microsoft Flight Simulator and really go through it. I mean, this is how cool the sort of, I mean, look at that is just beautiful, right? And then we can have a look at self-shadowing, maybe a 2 or a 3 or something like that, which really helps. We can obviously play around with the remap inputs as well if we want to make them more stylized like that. Or you can even increase, you can increase this one to sort of subtract even more from it. I mean, there's so much variation, and you've got like 40 something different clouds to play with. And you can also use the CloudForge spawner in order to, if you want to get, you know, like different effects. So I'm gonna test that out as well right now, just to show you what I mean. Okay, now with this cloud selected, I'm just going to delete it, and instead I'm gonna go into my CloudForge spawner. I kept these separate purely because I didn't want any confusion. So I've got the spawner here, and we can drop it in the world wherever we would like. I'm just gonna put it around this particular ice block again. Now, what I want to do with the spawner in place, we want to play around with the scale of the spawner. So the scale of the spawner says that it's a 1 by 1 by 1. So what we want to do, maybe do that like a 300. And obviously this has done it to the whole thing, so we don't want to do that. Let's just untick this and instead actually do a 500 by 500, and the height of it be around 20 or something like that, right? So this is the perimeter. Actually, if we put the height higher, this is the perimeter in which the clouds will spawn. So we have an amount of clouds, so let's put that about 50. We can take the boxes of indirect light and infinite trace as well. We do need to load up some materials in here. So I'm going to go into my VDB materials and single cloud, and I do have so I can use this material instance, and then I can use the next one, and then the next one. Okay. So this has added 3 different instances, 3 different clouds that we will load. So the lifespan of these clouds is 20, the spawn rate 1, and a density of 0.2. They will be traversing in one direction at a speed of 200 on the x-axis. Now, let's these only work if you press play. So let's have a look. If we press play right now, let's see what happens. Oh, actually, I don't know if this particular, I hope this particular level doesn't have a sequence or something in its place. Oh, I've got the mannequin and I'm flying through the world, and the mannequin just looks camouflaged, but I can't move around. So let me just have a look. I need to change the play mode in the world settings. So I'm just going to, oh, I don't have the world settings, so I'm just going to go to window in here, and I am going to have a look at world settings, and then with that I can then change to BP game God mode. Hopefully this will work as intended. So I'm gonna press play. Let's see what happens now. This is a very large level, so whenever you press play, it does take a bit of time for it to load. But hopefully this time around we've overwritten. Yeah, there we go. So we've overwritten in, and now we're flying in the scene. So we should start seeing some of these clouds spawn. Now, one of the other things in there is that the clouds are spawning indeed, as you can see them, but they are spawning at very, very small scales. So we're going to press escape. We're going to go over here, and because it seems that they were traversing this way. So I'm going to look at the scale of the clouds, and I'm going to put that to maybe like a 20 or something like that. Just make sure that all the scales are the same, and then we can press play again, and this should allow us to see the clouds now spawning. Now, again, this requires quite a bit of tweaking because you're going to have to work out how big the spawner needs to be, the scale of it, and in terms of cloud speed and direction in which they need to go. So this is obviously not the same as the ultra dynamic sky, and it's not trying to be. This is trying to be something that you can then run in a sort of a cinematic where you're getting these clouds. And again, performance-wise, performance is quite affected by how many clouds are in the scene, and you can see in here, right, as more and more clouds are spawning, the performance is not great on this particular spawner because you're going to have to tweak the values of it. So what type of clouds are being sort of created, all of these sort of like noises are also taking a lot of performance. So the cloud spawner is specifically meant to be used in cinematic work and not in video game purposes. But now you can see how the clouds are realistic. Well, not, you know, I would say, yeah, realistically in real time they're pretty much being updated, which is really, really cool because this is something that was not available in the previous version of the CloudForge. So that's another, you know, that's a really cool feature that we can do. Again, the CloudForge is mainly meant for localized clouds, not for you know, world spanning clouds. So just bear that in mind. Okay, now another feature that I want to show is the new simple blueprint that allows you to control some of the stats of the cloud. So to show you this, I'm actually going to go in here and going to add the single cloud blueprint again over in the world. I'm going to load up a cloud very quickly. Make sure that I've got my infinite trace and everything else on, and I'm going to give it a scale of 100 just so we can see it. Okay, so this is the cloud here. We've obviously played around with a similar cloud before. Now I want to show you the feature. Now another feature that's been added to the CloudForge, I'm going to show you now. I've got just a single cloud in the scene, and I am going to go into my CloudForge folder, and I've got this folder now called General Settings. Now if you go in here, you're going to have a BP VDB Settings Basic, and if you drop this particular blueprint in the world, you're going to have a few options in here, like for example set cinematic mode, so you can click that. But what that does is effectively loads all these options from here depending on how you selected them. So if you put an indirect lighting, a ray tracing, path tracing on, shading rate, push these numbers up, then you can set this and it will do it for you. One thing in here you'll see is depth sorting, which is right now disabled, and we've set that option on. So what happens is if I select the cloud, the single cloud here, and let's say I duplicate it, and let's say I put it somewhere around here, okay? What you're noticing is that there's some depth. You can see that the depth sort, it's not really sorting the depth as it should. This could be a useful feature depending on how you're trying to layer clouds. Right now, Unreal Engine isn't really checking to see which cloud is actually at the back and which is at the front. They're pretty much overlapping. So what you want to do is you want to select that VDB settings basic. You can click the depth sorting and then set cinematic mode. And all of a sudden, the clouds are now properly sorted, as you can see, right? If I disable that again, just to show you, you now see that they're overlapping again and there's some visual glitches. So it's important that you keep depth sorting on, but there is an option to remove it because in some cases, it might be useful for you to be able to overlap certain effects together. Also, depth sorting helps with some other translucent or volumetric sort of things. Like, for example, I believe, I might be wrong on this, and I'm literally testing this out now in real time. So let's try it. So if I select the weather here, the ultradynamic weather, and I say, give me clouds, something like that. And we can see we do have some clouds, but I think I need more. Yeah, there we go. So we now got clouds. Now these VDBs, they're always visible, as you can see. Now I've not tested this actually, to be honest, but I'm just gonna test it right now and see if it's gonna help. So let me just type in here settings, and I'm going to disable depth sorting and set cinematic mode. Yeah, it seems it's still overwriting the DNAmic Sky, unfortunately. So yeah, no joy there, unfortunately. VDBs are just too powerful, guys. I'm really sorry, but they just are. Okay. Unfortunately, you won't be able to not see the VDB clouds through. Sorry, you won't be able to see DNAmic Sky on top of the VDB clouds. So unfortunately, I mean, they are compatible, but you've got to make sure that the VDB clouds are the ones that are going to be the bottom layer and not the top layer. Because otherwise, you basically what I'm trying to say is like you're going to be able to see the VDB clouds from wherever. It will always pierce through DNAmic Sky. Now, some other things in here, you do have, I mean, that's the cinematic mode, which automatically adds some options that just increases all the rendering sort of capability of the VDB system. But you can also use this in here. So for example, if you apply these changes, now we can't even see the clouds because we have the trace distance is so low. So maybe you want to put that to a higher number. And if you apply, you can start seeing them again. Now they're not running any indirect lighting, so you can press that and apply. Oh, sorry. And then which will apply the indirect lighting. And then obviously you've got the other options in here as well. But both of these kind of do the same thing, but this has got some default values straight away, which again says warning high memory usage. So your FPS will decrease more with this particular option as opposed to this one. But it is a nice tweak because it basically affects all the clouds in the scene instead of just you having to like singularly changing values. So that's going to be it's like a quality of life option in there added for you. But I hope you found that useful. I do hope that you guys will like the new features. There's more to come. I'm actually working on a rain lightning system, wind system for it. I'm actually going to implement even further options. So stay tuned for that. Just remember, these clouds are also very much, they get affected by light. So as you can see behind me, I have actually changed the the daytime, and the lights have updated. The clouds have updated. They actually showcase different shades now. So very cinematic, very cool looking, especially if you bring them into your own sort of scene, your ecosystem, and you really build around them. They are beautiful to look at. Obviously, nowhere near as flexible as as the Ultra Dynamic Sky for game purposes or anything like that, but they are localized clouds. They are meant to spruce up your scenes in a localized fashion. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next update.